The Battle of the Year probably is the biggest breakdance event worldwide. Each year in October for the Battle of the Year World Finals, we have always like 8,500 to 9,000 spectators coming to Germany. We have more than 200 active dancers from breakdance crews participating at Battle of the Year. And the Battle of the Year has a very long tradition. It was founded 20 years ago in 1990. And it began as a very small event and every year grew, and today it's probably the biggest. So when I saw breakdancing or b-boying first on TV, which was like 83 probably, I was immediately touched and fascinated by it because it was a perfect mixture for me between acrobatic sports and music and culture. So the first breakdance wave lasted maybe for two years, but then all of a sudden like nobody was interested no more. That the media stopped to report about it and all the dancers disappeared. But like me here in Hanover, my hometown, I was still attracted and fascinated by b-boying, and I never understood why from one day to the other it was dying out. So I was hunting for other survivors because I said like I can't be the only one being still dancing. So after a short while in Hanover, I discovered some other people, some other kids, they also danced. And we collected more and more people. Maybe we were 10 to 15 people in the mid and 80s who were still practicing. And then we were talking a lot, what can we do to bring it back, to build up a forum again and to show the public that b-boying is still alive and means more to us than just a fashion. So that more or less was the moment where we decided, okay, what can we do? Let's just organize an event. So, and that probably was the motivation how the first Battle of the Year was organized. The first Battle of the Year already was an international event. We didn't expect this because when we started, that was 20 years ago, so there was no internet, there were no cell phones, so we only had maybe 20 to 30 postal addresses, and we knew only few people in Germany and Switzerland who still did breakdance. So all what we do before the first Battle of the Year in 1990, we printed posters and we sent the posters out to all the addresses we had. And then we were really surprised that for the first Battle of the Year already there was a group from England and 2 or 3 groups from Switzerland. So the first Battle of the Year actually was already international, which was a surprise to us and of course motivated us to continue for the next year. The Battle of the Year from 1990 grew slowly. Every year it got bigger and more international. But in the first years, we more or less like had contact to crews from Germany, Switzerland, and England. And then slowly other countries came and joined the Battle of the Year and more or less the hip hop culture. And like after a while, one could really see that at that time the dance style is really different depending on from which cultural background or from which country the dancer's coming from. So back in the days, let's say 20 years ago or even 15 years ago, one could clearly see that it's a French style dancer or it's a very acrobatic dancer from Hungary at that time. The first Hungarian group came from was named Enemy Squad, and they were always like very acrobatic. So and that was always different, for example, from the French crews, who were more dancing on the rhythm and had a lot of style, but also were very aggressive in battling. So those were the individual differences. Nowadays, you still can see differences, but it's getting more and more complicated because the kids nowadays download everything on YouTube. They can buy DVDs and then build up their own dancers from what they see on internet and on DVDs. So they're mixing up styles. But still, if you go to big b-boying events or you visit the Battle of the Year on stage, and you see 20 different nations, you still can feel whether a group is coming from Africa, Japan, or Korea. Nowadays, with the internet and emailing, the world is so connected, so it gets much easier to exchange ideas, to exchange video clips, to upload video clips on whatever, MySpace, YouTube. So everything is more close together. And of course, then everything is mixed much more, and it's easier to copy styles. So that's what's happening today. Today we are living in a very fast environment. The society is living very fast, especially the kids. Like they do something for, let's say, half a year, and then they see, okay, they have no success, so they switch to something different, which in my opinion is really strongly supported by the internet, by other mediums and medias. So that wasn't the fact like back in the days, because like nowadays it is like, okay, you can't say to somebody you meet, okay, I'm hip hop, because he's wearing the shoes and the Kangol or whatever. Nowadays he could be even listen to techno electro music, you know. So it's really hard nowadays to really put different youth cultures and hip hop people or b-boys in categories, so you can't recognize them. And that's also the fact, like you have some b-boys, which is good again, like they listen to, let's say, electronic music or even rock music, and they like to b-boy to it. Originally it was breaks, soul music, funk music and rap music, but nowadays everything is mixed, so everything has positive and negative sides. You have different categories of b-boys. You have dancers who still only do the old school moves, like the top rocking, the footworks. Then you have b-boys, and they are specialized into the power moves, who are more acrobatics. They are spinning on their heads, they are flying around, doing air flares and Thomas flares. And yeah, and you have mixes of everything. Then you have b-boys who more or less listen to punk music, electronic music. They dress up like, let's say, punk people. They don't even look like the b-boys like I met them like 20 years ago, but they still do dancing. If we would only like put it on how it was back in the days and don't allow like development, I mean, it would not be so interesting, and it would be in my opinion, this would be the death of the youth culture, of the development. The biggest battle of the year we ever organized was in the year 2000. We had a bit more than 10,000 spectators in the location, and a bit less than 4,000 outside without tickets, watching the inside battle outside on a big video screen. And that was on the World EXPO site in Hanover. And the reason for it was like, at that time, different reasons. I was not sure if I really want to continue the event. After 10 years, I said maybe it's too much stress, so it's good after 10 years to stop. And the EXPO, with having a big venue, might be a good last battle of the year. And on the other side, we were part of the World Exposition, which we had in Hanover in the year 2000 for 5 months. And the whole media output, which was organized by the EXPO, put Battle of the Year, b-boying and hip-hop culture into mainstream medias, and attracted a lot of kids, let's say mainstream kids, who normally don't attend any b-boy or hip-hop events, but they were interested in, because maybe they listen to rap music, or they came from a skateboard background, which is kind of also an urban culture. So this all together filled up the venue, and it was really incredible. In 1999, in Leipzig, Battle of the Year, we only had, I would say, 3,500 or 4,000 spectators. And at that time, I knew already that next year we have a big venue for 10,000 more people. So I was really like sweating, like if we really fill up the venue, because like a big venue being only half full looks like to me dead. So I never expected so many people coming in the year 2000. And it looked developing very, very slow until 4 weeks before the event in 2000. But then all of a sudden the pre-sales went really, really fast. And we decided, I think a week before Battle of the Year in October 2000, we decided to stop the pre-sales, because I knew our normal crowd. I knew that they come with buses from Holland and Paris, France, without any tickets, because usually you come to Battle of the Year and you can buy your tickets on door. So we said we better stop and hold 1,000 tickets till the day of the event, in case of anybody comes without tickets. And then on the day of the event, I think it was the 14th of October in 2000, in the morning, I think at 10 o'clock, the pre-sale offices were open, and within 10 minutes, the last 1,000 tickets were sold. So this was really amazing. The b-boying scene is really special. I think it's a scene, and the people really like to. They want to really treat it respected, because they have a lot of love for what they are doing, and they invest a lot of energy. Plus, I would say mostly the kids or the target group doing b-boying or are involved in the hip-hop movement come from social minorities, like it was hip hop culture, was born in the South Bronx and Brooklyn and Harlem, so poor neighborhoods of New York City in the United States, and it was brought up by the immigrants living in the United States, like Puerto Ricans and African people. And that if you transfer this, for example, to Germany, you have a lot of Turkish people, Albanian people being involved in hip hop. So they always fight for their rights, because normally in society, in school, the kids have no success. So they invest everything they have into, for example, practicing dancing, practicing b-boying. And that of course leads to the fact that they, on one side, they can be really, let's say, hard to handle. Plus, they are really proud of what they did, so you really have to treat them very respectful. So this leads to the fact that you every year have discussions with b-boys, maybe sometimes only because you can't give them a backstage pass or you can't put them on the guest list. Or what is also special about b-boy competitions, we are not talking about a football event or match where in the end you have a referee and you have 2-0, so it's very clear who's the winner, who's the loser. At the Battle of the Year or any other b-boy competition, we have rules, we have a judging system, but still, it's really hard to get for the dancer and sometimes also for the audience why one group was judged better than the other group. So this normally is also a very high potential topic to create tension and pressure and discussions and stress, of course. And sometimes this stress gets so much that individual dancers from one group who are a little bit more aggressive than the others even try to knock you out or argue so much with you that they touch you or yell at you. So everything, even like I have seen even Battle of the Year events where people came up with knives and wanted to stab some of the judges and stuff like this. So this is the worst form of having stress and problems at events like Battle of the Year. And some people even call us Disneyland of b-boying, because we integrate not only the hardcore b-boy community, we also integrate like families, which was always important for me, old people or older people, because I always wanted to show them what we do, because I think it's more than just a culture for the underground and for youth centers staying behind like walls and borders. I mean, the educational part was always a strong part of the hip-hop culture from the first day. You know, so the original meaning of hip-hop culture is to give kids who have nothing than guns, drugs, fights, a creative alternative to use their creativity and skills for something else. So this actually was the birth of hip-hop. So in the 70s, there were a lot of violent youth gangs in the streets of New York. They were fighting each other, and the idea of b-boying was to have a battle, a fight of two persons or two groups, but without using knives or guns and without touching your opponent. So that's the original idea. To win against somebody else with a better dance move. That's the idea of a battle. That's why we call the Battle of the Year. And by giving kids an opportunity to do something else and giving them a perspective to do something with their skills and to learn something, and maybe 10 years later work as a choreographer or work as a professional dancer or work as a professional graffiti painter who's nowadays working in a graphic agency or whatever, designing websites. You know, so this always was and still is a strong part of hip-hop culture, and that's also the reason why the social workers always like to work with this hip-hop culture elements, because hip-hop culture and b-boying, I mean, it doesn't matter from which country you come, which religion. You need nothing, you need no machines, you just can dance with each other and it's working, you know. They need no teachers, they need no social workers, because they work with each other. So they teach each other, the older generation is teaching the younger generation, and this is why a lot of social workers like it. And this aspect also was, of course, really important from the first year on for us, for Battle of the Year, to not only do the big main event, but beside the Battle of the Year main event, we always did workshops where the good dancers teach the young dancers. We have panel discussions where people have open discussions to discuss things. So this was and still is very important for me by organizing Battle of the Year. For us in Europe, our legends come from the United States, come from New York, from the mid-70s when b-boying was born. So my first legends were of course the New York City Breakers and the Rocksteady crew, because those groups have been the first dancers I've ever seen on TV, like maybe in 82 or 83. So to me, people like Crazy Legs, Frosty Freeze, Prince Ken Swift, Powerful Packstar, those are names who are legends for my generation. Nowadays, of course, we have 20 years of Battle of the Year now. So if you talk about legends being around like Battle of the Year history, you could talk about people like Maurizio, a guy from Italy who always had a really different, unique dance style. He was a member of a Battle Squad, a very legendary, famous German group. By the way, a group who only won. They won twice the Battle of the Year, so nobody else did this. And another member of Battle Squad is a very famous dancer and probably a legend, is called Storm. He's from Germany, and but most of those dancers and legends are not only legends because of Battle of the Year. I mean, we just have a forum, Battle of the Year, and they danced at Battle of the Year on the stage. Some of them won Battle of the Year, but they always have been around on other events also. So they have been not only at Battle of the Year. But Storm is a very big legend in the German or worldwide b-boy world. Other legends, I mean, sometimes people get legends when they die. So other people, like for example, there was a famous Italian dancer called Massimo Crash. His b-boy name was Crash, and he was a really nice dancer from Bologna. So he died and everybody was shocked, and then after a while, like still today people are talking about him. Or like DJ James Lacey, he was a really positive DJ from close to London, from Stansted, and like he was a really positive character. And for me personally, he got a really close friend, and then all of a sudden he was dead, like hit by a car. So of course, for the DJ scene, which is really strong related to the b-boys because the DJ play the music for the dancers, James Lacey is a really big legend nowadays. In 1991, we invited probably too many artists from Berlin. At that time, the Berlin hip-hop scene had a lot of so-called hip-hop hooligans, so they came to Battle of the Year with buses, and they absolutely destroyed everything. And then a legendary battle, definitely maybe the biggest legend or rumor speaking about battles at Battle of the Year is the battle between Battle Squad and Second to None in the year 1992, because of the reason that Swift and Storm, two legends in hip-hop and breakdancing, had to battle with two people against a group of, I would say, 8 or 9 English people, plus Maurizio from Italy, who in the year before was in the group of the other side. So they had an argument, and within 1 year, he was changing the sides. So they were battling two people against 8 or 9 people, and the 2 people, Swift and Storm, won. So this battle definitely is legendary. So still, nowadays, people talk about this, and you can see it on YouTube, and people download it. So it's a legendary battle. And then at Battle of the Year 1996, it's more or less a funny story. The Battle of the Year 1996 was held in an old British Army barrack. But the town of Celle, which is the name of the German city where the Battle of the Year was in 1996, somehow bought one army barrack from the British Army and changed it into a big cultural event and youth center. So this was actually the place where we had the Battle of the Year, and the name of the place was still like something like Youth Army Barrack or something. But still at that time, 1996, there were 5 or 6 original army barracks with soldiers from Great Britain. So there was a bus coming from Denmark, and there was one spectator. He wanted to get in for free, and he went to the real army barrack and was swimming through a river and climbing over walls until like the military police caught him with guns, and then delivered him with a wet t-shirt to the event Battle of the Year in the event location, which originally was a barrack but now is an event center. So that was one funny story. So I was really surprised that somebody took so much effort to get into Battle of the Year by swimming through a channel and climbing walls. So I gave him a guest list pass, of course, and gave him a dry t-shirt because he was really poor. So that was a legend and funny story. At Battle of the Year 1990, we have 2 hosts at Battle of the Year, 2 MCs who present the event. One is coming from Germany. His name is Specs. He's coming from Hanover. And the second host is called Trix. He's from the UK, from Nottingham. And this guy called Trix always was a little bit messy. So he always lost his plane tickets, his train tickets. He always was late, missing trains and everything. So when he went from Nottingham to Leipzig, where we had Battle of the Year 1990, he had to first get a train from Nottingham to London Stansted to pick a plane in London Stansted to fly over to Leipzig airport. So at that time, 1990, I mean, cell phones were already existing, but not everybody had mobile phones at that time. So Trix had no cell phone, and we went to the airport, but he was not on the plane as expected. And at that time, I couldn't call him and give him a call and say, hey, what's going on, Trix? Did you miss your plane? Do you come on the next plane? So he had no idea we had no idea where he was. And that was a Friday before the event. I mean, Saturday was the event, Friday Trix was not on the plane, so we didn't know what to do. I already spoke to other people who could replace him hosting. There was another guy named Cross One. I was asking him, hey, he was from the United States and he was organizing events, so I was already asking him if he could hop in Trix's place on the next day in case he's not coming. So I went to bed on Friday, and I think it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. In my hotel room, the hotel was ringing. So it was the mom of DJ Lacey, the DJ who's dead now, and she called me and said, like, listen, Thomas, I have Trix here in my house in London Stansted. And I was surprised, because how the hell did she found out that Trix missed his plane or whatever? So somehow they got connected. Trix was staying in her house. She paid with her credit card a new flight to Frankfurt, not to Leipzig. So at that time we knew that Trix is coming on another plane. Way too late. I mean, the event was supposed to start probably at 8 p.m., but the plane in Frankfurt landed, let's say, 5 o'clock p.m. And from Frankfurt to Leipzig, it's probably, I would say, maybe 300 kilometers. So some of my workers picked him up with a car and was driving back from Frankfurt to Leipzig with 200 miles per hour or kilometers per hour. And so they arrived just 5 minutes before he had to go on stage. I just gave him the mic and he was on stage. So a long story came to an end. So because that was really stressy, a very stressy moment. But in the end, already the day after, we were laughing about the whole story. So breakdancing, the original term for breakdancing is called b-boying. The B stands for the break. So you call it break-boying because originally the b-boys were only dancing to the breaks of a song, the instrumental part. So, but even if, for example, like the so-called top rock or up rock is everything you do before you go down on the floor, which is like standing top and moving. But the top rock or the up rock in the beginning was a separated dance form on its own. It was born in Brooklyn, and for this reason it was also called Brooklyn rock, but later on it was up rock, top rock. So nowadays I would say up rock or top rock is one part of b-boying. Then you have the footworks, which is everything you do on the floor. And you can say this is the original form of b-boying because like back in the days, the dance always was acrobatic, but not as acrobatic as nowadays. So the original form of b-boying was mainly more or less all around footworks. And then you have the so-called power moves or air moves, which is all the acrobatic moves like head spins, spinning on your head, like windmills, air flares, flips, whatever. This is called power moves. And then you have freezes, which normally you do like at the end of your solo, you stand still and you freeze. So that means that shows the audience or your opponent, the other dancer, that your solo stops with a freeze. So I would say, like, if you see a dancer doing a solo, more or less it always starts with an up rock or top rock. Then you go down, do some footworks, then you do maybe some power moves, and then you always end up like doing a headspin, for example, with stopping with a freeze. So you have a complete solo from top rock, footwork, power moves, freeze in the end. So that's b-boying. Some of the basics or moves like every b-boy should have or usually has is like the six step. Six step is a basic step for footworks. Then you have spins, you have head spins, you have back spins, you have elbow spins. Back in the days we even had knee spins, but you don't see this anymore. You have different forms of freezes. You have the chair freeze, you have the baby freeze. So there's a whole wider vocabulary of dancing. So you have like the power moves, you have continuous backspin, which developed into windmill. Then you have the Thomas flares, which originally was founded by a gymnastic guy named Kurt Thomas, who was in the US national team of gymnastics, and he did the Thomas flares on the pommel horse. So the b-boys found this move very interesting, so they did it in a b-boy solo. So that's a Thomas flare. Then you have air flares, you have elbow twists, you have jump turtles. So there's a really, really big variety of different moves, which a dancer has to have on mind. But then still, of course, it is really, really important for being a really good dancer that you have your own signature move, which you maybe invented. So this is very special. And this is really hard nowadays because so many people do it. Everything has been there already, so it's really hard and complicated to really invent something new, but it still happens. And then, if you create this today, then you're a really good special dancer. Storm's first name was Swipes, and Swipes is also a move, and Storm always could do the swipes really nice in different variations, so that's why he called himself Swipes. But then somehow when he went to New York first in the 90s, somebody somehow changed his name into Storm because maybe he was so energetic and powerful, but I don't know why he changed exactly from Swipes to Storm. Also, like what is really important about b-boying and the dance form is the style. This is what you also hear from skateboarders or snowboarders. Style is something you really cannot put in words. It's something like how cool or easy you move, if you smile while you're dancing, if you dance really nice to the rhythm, if you know the songs and you dance on the tunes. For example, you make your moves on the beats and stuff like this, or on some trumpet or whatever, you know. So if you can do this, you are really a stylish dancer, for example. So you can see this. So some so-called b-boys are not even able to dance on the rhythm. So they really look like gymnastic people, you know. So you never should forget that the b-boying is an art form and it's dancing. So and dancing always means moving to the rhythm. So if you can't dance to the rhythm, of course you will never get like much respect from the scene or high scores from the judges. So yeah, if you have everything like originality, for example, if you have your own moves, if you dance to the rhythm, if you have a really good and positive or maybe aggressive stage presence, if you play with your opponent, that makes up a really good and unique dancer. The originators, like, of course, they come from the United States, mainly from New York. So if I talk about somebody like Prince Ken Swift, who was a member of the Rocksteady crew, second generation, I mean, he came from the United States. But then, like, that was the birthplace of hip-hop and b-boying, New York City. But then it spread all over the United States. So a little bit later, one could find good dancers on the West Coast, in California, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And then, of course, it spread all over. So there were b-boys 84 in Japan, in Africa, in Germany, and then in every little continent and country you had your own legends. But some of the legends, for example, in Germany, people like Storm, for example, they turned out being legends worldwide because they were representing really hard. They were traveling to other events, and or videos were spread. So everybody knew, like, let's say, 90 from 90 to 95, everybody worldwide was only more or less talking about Storm. So the first time I saw breakdancing or b-boying was around, I would say, 83. I would say 13 years old maybe at that time. And I was watching TV at home and I saw a live broadcasting from the Berliner Funkausstellung. And I didn't know at all what breakdancing was at that time. So all of a sudden I saw some people on the stage at the Funkausstellung, and they were performing some crazy kind of dance with a jumping, flipping, spinning, and I really didn't know what it was. But from the first second on, I felt and I thought, okay, that's something I have to learn, I have to do also, because it's a perfect combination of music and gymnastics, or let's say acrobatics, combined into a dance form. So that was actually the first time I saw breakdancing, which was on TV, but actually I'm not sure. I think straight I tried it in the living room. I tried to do the moves, but you have to see like you saw something on TV, but then it was gone and there was no DVD player or something. I didn't even tape it. So you saw something, it was not there, and then you tried to copy it, but it was really hard to practice it because there was nothing. There were no DVDs, there were no videotapes. So everything you created in the 80s was made up on your mind more or less. So it was really complicated, but on the other way, it has more open space for your own fantasy and your own creativity. Nowadays, you watch clips on slow motion, so it's really easy more or less. If you have a good teacher and a good video clip, you can learn a move within 1 week. And for me, for example, to learn a windmill, which in the 80s was a really complicated move, took me more or less 2 years because I had nobody showing me and I had no video or DVD player explaining how to do this move. At that time, for example, some movies came into the cinema, like movies like Beat Street or Breakin' or Wild Style. So you went to a movie and expecting, okay, you see something. So you saw the movie sometimes twice or 3 times, and then you try to copy it, you try to do it. But we were more or less 84, we were the first generation in Europe, so we had no teachers. And New York was far away. I was 14 years old, so I never ever thought about even one day flying to New York because I was 13, 14 years old. So for me it was an adventure to go to Munich in Germany or to Berlin, but not to New York. So I had nobody teaching me. So of course you had to think about it, imagine how did they do it. And that sometimes led to funny things because you created a move, you tried to copy a move you have seen on TV yesterday, but you did it a little bit different. And sometimes it even turned out in a new move. So that was really exciting. It was hard because you can imagine, like I wanted to do the windmill so much, but I never found out for a long time how to do it because like I had it not on TV 24 hours. So, but I remember still when I managed to do my first windmill, I was really like, yes, I made it. So I really was happy and was like a big kick for me. Yeah. And I guess that was the same to more or less everybody. Still today, if you manage to do a new move you have seen somewhere and you do it for the first time, you are really, really hyped or happy, But nowadays, the success is coming really, really faster than 20 years ago because it's easier today.